Hey guys, today I am going to be sculpting our familiar old red plumber Mario here on the iPad using Nomad Sculpt. Everything's sped up. I don't actually model this fast. But what you can see is that the way I usually like to start a sculpt is I start by creating a bunch of spheres and then just using the move tool to push and pull things around to kind of block in the basic shapes. Occasionally I'll use some stuff like a sharp brush, which is just a modified version of the brush that has a sharper point to it, or I'll use the clay buildup tool and even the regular brush to sort of further refine the forms, but I'm not getting into too much detail at this point. I'm making the hair by simply masking off the hair, and I actually tried a couple things. What was easiest is I masked off the hair and used the layer brush tool to kind of thicken everything up, and then I split it off from the mesh, and from there I further kind of sculpted and fit the hair under the hat and stuff and moved the head around. This is an easy way of just kind of extracting a form off of a base form to get stuff like hairs or extra clothing and stuff. So here I'm just again continuing to further refine the models and the shapes using just some simple brushes and tools. Every once in a while you'll see that I hop in and I remesh the form using voxel remesh. This is a pretty typical workflow where just adjusting the resolution of the voxel remesh and further kind of pumping it up. It's good to start really low on a voxel mesh resolution so it's easy to smooth things out, and then just progressively get higher and higher as you get more comfortable and locked in on your forms. I created a cylinder and mirrored it, and just using the move tool to push and pull that around to create the legs. I eventually then voxel remesh the cylinder, and here I made a sphere, again just pushing and pull things around. Then I like to use the trim brush to chop the bottom of the feet off. I'm also using like a select rectangular mask to kind of get the brim around the shoes. Similar to what I did with the hair, I then used like actually didn't use the layer tool. I think I used the scale and I just scaled those things out. And then I did voxel merge, and I merged the shoe and the little shoe brim together. So here I am. I'm actually using the new tool, the tube brush. The tube brush is really great. I could have been used just as easily for the legs, but it's a great way to get the arms in there. And obviously that was just really easy and fast to just pose the arms and get those in the shape I wanted. Added some spheres for the hands. And here I am using the clay buildup tool to kind of block in the shapes for his suspenders and pants. That's something I could have done like with the hair, where I could have masked things off and used this layer brush and split it off, but I decided it was just going to be simple enough just to use just some typical sculpting brushes, just kind of define those angles. You can see I added some cylinders in there for the buttons. Eventually I'll duplicate the cylinders of the buttons, and I'll use a little voxel merge trick where I turn off the invisibility and actually boolean, or I get rid of the inner part of the cylinder. You'll see that happen here in a second. Right now I'm just blocking in, again, further refining shapes. I got pockets and fingers. Again, I'm mostly using a sharp brush, smoothing things out. Occasionally I'll use the crease brush to kind of go around the edge and kind of sharpen the edge, like around the suspenders and the edge of the pants. There's the sharp brush and just regular brushes to create those little folds in the fabric of the sleeves. Using the sharp brush here and the clay buildup tool to get some more forms in the hair. For the most part, I keep everything symmetrical. I ended up turning off symmetry on the hat and a couple other things just briefly, just to kind of get a little asymmetry here and there. It's good to kind of break up the symmetry so everything doesn't look too perfect. Like you can see here I'm doing it with a hat, just to give a little bit more visual interest to the sculpt. Alright, here I'm adding a cylinder and just using kind of some of the basic tools for initializing the cylinder to kind of get in shape for the pipe. And at this point I'm getting pretty close to having all my main forms blocked in. Once I get the pipe done, I'll probably move on to coloring. For the brim of the pipe, I turned on the hole on the cylinder option. All right, so now we're going to get into coloring. This is pretty simple since all of my mesh is kind of broken up into individual shapes. So for the most part, I just go through, select a color, hit paint all, go through, select a color, hit paint all. I'm also adjusting the roughness, which is the shininess of the material as I go, and the metalness. I don't really use metalness very much except for on the buttons. And here you can see I have to go in and manually paint the suspenders and pants because I didn't create it as a separate object. Again, it's probably something I should have done in retrospect, but it was just as easy to leave it as is in sculpting. Here I am doing what I described earlier, where I duplicate the cylinders on its buttons, and I use a voxel merge with the visibility turned off on the second layer to create an inset on those buttons. Now, once I get all the main colors blocked in, I'll go in with a brush and kind of add some makeup, some blush to his nose here, and I'll add a little bit of extra shading around the cheeks, around the bags of the eyes. I'll even eventually work in some kind of streaks on his nose and even some freckles on his face, just to add a little bit more visual interest. I have to turn off symmetry when I do this. Again, breaking up the symmetry, even with paint, is just a great way to add some more visual interest to the sculpt. At this point, I realized that Mario actually has these 3 little spheres on his knuckles, on his gloves, and so I'm just adding those in. Once I get those added in, I keep them white, but I'll turn the roughness up on them and fill those in. All right, adding the color here on the pipe. Now I'm starting to add some of the lights. Nomad's really powerful when it comes to creating some really good real-time renders with the lighting setup. So I like to dial down the intensity of my HDR environment and add some spotlights and just do a typical 3-point lighting setup. Doing this just really shows off some of the qualities and color in the PBR materials. So I've got 3 lights. I've got a key light, fill light, and you can see I just added a rim light on the left side there. All right, I'm just about done here, just adding a few more details. I decided to add a coin, kind of similar to the buttons on the front, but I'm adding a coin to his pocket. So it's as easy as simply creating a cylinder, and I'm adding a little bit of sculpting around the pocket to make it feel like it's actually sitting down inside there. In a second, I'll do the same trick that I did on the buttons, where I duplicate that cylinder, inset it, and hide it, and then create a boolean with a voxel merge on it. So there's a subtractive boolean as it cuts away. All right, now getting the color blocked in on the coin, and just kind of tucking in the pocket a little bit better, making it conform to that coin. All right, here I'm just adding some extra little sculptural detail as well as some asymmetry to keep things interesting. I could really go crazy on detail. In fact, I could probably spend a lot more time on this. This was just a quick 2-hour sculpt, but really, that's the power of Nomad, is I could keep going and just add tons and tons more detail to this if I wanted to. So I'm kind of letting myself get a little carried away here before I call it good. Adding some wrinkles in the lips. Again, just mostly with a sharp brush and the clay buildup tool. Just inspecting them here, adding some more folds on the backs of his legs, on the backs of his shirt. Again, trying to break up that symmetry with those folds. Constantly turning things around, just checking how the model looks, and just double checking lighting, just kind of giving it some final looks before I call it good. Now I'm dialing in the post effects. Another cool thing with Nomad is to be able to add some ambient occlusion, some depth of field, just things that just really make that final render pop. And here we are. This is the final result. This is Mario. I hope you like it. Again, you just sculpted in about 2 hours. Let me know in the comments below if there's something else you'd like to see me sculpt, and maybe we'll try that next time. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. If you like this video and want to see more, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you guys.